Today I'm going to do a quick analysis of Freckle as a formative assessment tool. What is Freckle? Freckle brands itself as a differentiation platform, and as part of that, it provides a lot of information and data about how students are doing on different topics and standards, and this right here is what makes it quite a powerful tool for formative assessment. Before diving into the data reports, I want to talk about what I see as some of the pros and cons. On the pro side, Freckle, there's a lot you can do with it. There's a variety of assessment types, and there's a lot of rich, robust data that you can get back on your students to better understand where they are and plan your instruction going forward. In addition to that, it's very engaging for students. It's gamified. There's a adaptive practice program that they can just go into and run with, and it's engaging for kids, which generates lots of really good data about how they're doing. But on the con side, there's a couple things. One, you can't design your own specific questions, so you can't really target the question type and the specific thing that you want to know about your students. Two, there's a lot of different data reports, and this is great, but it can also be a challenge if you don't really know the program and how to use it and where to find the information that you're looking for. It can be a little confusing and overwhelming if you're not well versed in the program. In addition to that, there's a free version and a paid version, and a lot of the more powerful features are behind the paywall. If you're going to be using them frequently and trying to use them as a daily formative assessment tool, you might have to pay for it. So those are some of the pros and cons. But let's take a look at the types of data that you can get. And when you're getting data in Freckle, there's a kind of a couple ways that you can, types of data that you can get. And first of all, you can do assignments. And this is what makes it powerful for formative assessment is you can assign the students a quick check for understanding or an exit ticket about a standard or a topic that you're interested in. So I did an exit ticket on one specific standard, and you can see at a glance here the types of data that I can see. So here I see right off the bat, I can see who did well and who didn't. And if I'm looking at this, I know that the next day in class, I probably need to do some reteaching on this standard because 3 of my 5 students didn't do too hot. So I need to plan some whole class reteach. But when I'm doing that, I know which specific students did master this standard so they can be some of my student leaders as tutors, maybe doing some whole class instruction. But now I can dive into this and get a lot more information. So here's every single question that was on that assessment, and I can see how my whole class did. So I can identify if there were any questions that tripped everybody up, or look for some patterns if there's certain types of questions that are really challenging for my students. So I can really do some item analysis to understand on a question by question level how we did. And then I can actually drill into these questions and see specifically who got them right and who got them wrong. So if I'm looking at a problem question here, I can see, well, there were a couple kids that got this question right. So the next day, instead of me going over this question and teaching everybody how to do it, I might pull these students up and have them teach the class or have them teach small groups of these students how they did that question so students can learn from each other and they can correct their mistakes on the questions that they missed. So I really like this ability to look question by question and see who got each one right and wrong. In addition, I can drill into an individual student. So here's my student, Tony, and I can see every question that he did, whether he got it right or wrong. And so this is great if I want to sit down with that student one-on-one or I'm working with him in a small group. I know the exact questions and mistakes that he made so that we can review those specific mistakes and make sure he can learn from them going forward. So that's just a quick look at some of the data that I can get on something that I've assigned to the students. But there's this other mode where students go in and practice on their own, and the platform adapts to the students and keeps them working at questions that are on their own level, and that's the adaptive practice engine. And this generates lots of different types of data that I can look at to see when my students are working on their own, how are they doing and what are they working on. So just flicking through a few of these data reports, you can see there's a lot, but this is my favorite one. This shows for a specific domain, geometry, what grade level are all of my students at. So I can see he's at a 5th grade student, these guys are at a 2nd and 3rd grade level, and these guys are at a 1st grade level. I can use this in many different ways. I can use this to personalize instruction. I can give him higher level stuff as I pull these guys into small groups and work with them on lower level stuff. These guys are right where they need to be. I'm going to keep staying the course, but I might group them together, or I might have some of these higher level students come down and tutor these students or these students. So I really like this whole class overview that shows the level of each individual student within a domain for personalizing instruction and doing grouping. So lots of good data. All in all, I think Freckle's a really effective tool because of all the data that you can get to plan your instruction going forward. but you have to figure out how to use it. And there's a lot of information going on. So you have to take the time to invest to figure out how to get the data that you're looking for. And you might have to pay for the school edition. If you take the time to do that, it can be a super powerful tool for your formative instruction, for your formative assessment.